Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Jackson. And in this space, we do life together, we grow together, and we heal together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Jackson. And if you're tuning in for the first time, hey girl, welcome to the potty. If you're a returning listener, hey girl, hey, welcome back. So as you all may have noticed, last week there was not a new episode. It was a little break week for me, somewhat unintentionally. And if you're watching this, then you notice that this is an audio only episode. I was going to do a video for it this week. However, I've been out of town. We've had a lot of things going on. So it's either we do an episode or it's just audio. You don't get the visual for it, or we skip another week. And I said, we're going to go ahead and get this episode out. So with that being said, today we are talking about releasing the expectations of others. But before we get into that, girl, let me tell you something. So I have the privilege of leading our young adult life group at my church, and it's an age range between 18 and 25 of young women who are really just amazing. Like, I'm not just saying that to say that. I really have like a really good group of women. I can't say that enough. And I'm just always just so like in awe of them as far as how they are pursuing their goals, how they are starting businesses, how they already have businesses, how they are going back to school, doing the things that they want to do. And I want to highlight one of my girls this week because this was a long time in the making, and she just released new music. And I'm super proud of her because when we first started talking about it, she was like, I don't know. She was nervous about putting it out. And she let me hear the song before she released it last week. And I'm like, girl, like, this is amazing. So I want to share her new song with you all. It's LYWBD, which stands for Let Your Will Be Done. And if you search Christina Dejanay or LYWBD on any of the like Spotify, Apple Music, all of that, you can find it and listen. It's a really good song. Like, I'm just so super proud of her. I'm super excited for her. So make sure y'all go blow her song up, stream it, because it's actually like a really good song. It has a nice little it's a nice little feel to it. It's about God, and I love that for her. So that's my girl. Let me tell you something, because I feel like just a proud big sis / big auntie, and I'm just excited to see how God uses her and just to see her like pursuing her purpose, pursuing the things that God has placed on the inside of her, and just like the girls as a whole. But I just wanted to share that with you all. But let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. All right, so today we are talking about releasing the expectations of others. And for those of you who may not know, last week we did the 7 days of surrendering to different things. And this was one of the things that God placed on me towards the end of it. The need to truly just surrender and release the expectations that other people have placed on us, the expectations that we've carried, that we're trying to shape and mold ourselves into, that really is not who He created us to be, but just trying to follow this outline, this formula, these rules that someone else has placed on us. And instead of it actually helping us to pursue purpose, instead of it actually helping us to grow and be who it is that He's called us to be, instead it's causing us to shrink, and it's causing us to show up in a way that is almost like a clone or a reflection of someone else, versus being the reflection of who it is that God created you to be, and being able to really walk in the authenticity of that without feeling like you're not doing it the right way. And so we're going to take a deep dive into that, because I feel like for a lot of people, and I've talked about this throughout the seasons, but I feel like for a lot of people, one of the things that hinder us from being our authentic selves and walking in the authenticity of who it is that God created us to be is that we have so much chatter in our minds about what we feel like is acceptable, what we feel like we should or should not do, who we should or should not be, what we should or should not say, based off of someone else's preference, based off of someone else's traditions. based off of how someone else feel like you should show up. And so I think it's important to understand that as you are pursuing your goals, as you are pursuing your dreams, as you are pursuing purpose, one of the mindset blocks and one of the things that can hinder you is not even realizing that you have a lot of mindsets that essentially aren't even really yours, but it's things that you need to unlearn based off of different things that have been instilled within you from years, decades, childhood that you have carried with you that you don't even realize. So let's jump into it. So just the other day, I was having a conversation with my therapist and just talking about why I'm so passionate about women being authentically who it is that they were created to be, being authentically who God specifically called them and created them to be. And I was sharing with her a big part of that for me is because there have been situations where I felt like I had to shrink. There have been situations where I felt like I adjusted or adapted to someone else's terms or expectations of what I should be like. And specifically as women, I feel like it's very easy for us to fall into the trap of feeling like you have to be a certain way as far as you can't be too strong, you can't be too harsh, you can't be too this or too that because you don't want to be deemed difficult. You don't want to be deemed the negative terms that come with being a woman who has a certain demeanor, someone who will speak up, someone who is outspoken. And I do think that with anything that we do, there always can be an extreme, right? So yes, there may be times where it's like, baby girl, you got to reel it back in. Like, I don't need you to go full throttle in this particular instance. But there are also times where it's not just a thing of us using wisdom and understanding that, hey, maybe this is not the appropriate time for me to speak about this. Maybe there are some things that I do have to regulate my emotions on, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe this is something that I don't need to address right now or address it at the level that I intended to. That is wisdom. And there are going to be times where it's not a matter of you shrinking. It really is a matter of you, okay, I'm looking at the situation here and I have enough wisdom to discern that one, this ain't my assignment, or this does not require me to even respond to it. But there are also instances where we can find ourselves being quiet when we should speak up. There are instances where we can find ourselves in situations that we're not comfortable with and we feel like we can't say something or we shouldn't say something because of whoever the person is who's in charge or whoever the person is that's giving us the instruction, whatever it might be. And I'm not even speaking of this when it comes to like a workplace environment. I'm speaking of this when it comes to your relationships with people, church, your interactions with family, your friendships, like all of these different things. And I think a lot of times as we are pursuing our goals, as we are pursuing our purpose, specifically when it looks different than what people expected of you, you have this inner voice that is telling you that you shouldn't do it, that's telling you that this isn't the best option for you. You should be doing something different or you shouldn't be doing it like this. You have all of these different things that's speaking against it. And when you really get to a place where you start to quiet the noise and start asking yourself, whose voice am I listening to? Whose voice is it that I'm actually hearing? And does that line up with what God told me? Does it line up with what God told me to do, who it is that he told me to be? Like, is that in alignment with what I know to be true about him, his character, his heart, his voice for me, and the vision that he gave to me? And if not, we need to address that thing. And a big struggle with addressing that is sometimes that voice is your parents. Sometimes that voice is someone that you really respect. It's someone that you have a close relationship with, and you fear disappointing them. You fear if you say something, they take it in the wrong way or they take offense to it. And so it can put you in a space where you put more weight and more pressure on making sure you don't disappoint this person versus being who God called you to be. And as crazy as that may sound to like actually hear that, we do it all the time. And a lot of it is rooted in people pleasing. Like a lot of us do have to go through this process of really letting go of the need of people being happy with us all the time, not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting to mess anything up, not wanting to make anyone upset, not wanting to do anything that's going to cause any type of tension or friction. And trust me when I say I get that, because I'm definitely someone who tends to be more on the conflict avoidance side in most cases. There's some things that I'm like, I want all the smoke, but for the most part, I tend to be more so on the conflict avoidance side. But you also have to ask yourself, okay, I'm avoiding conflict to keep the peace, but am I at peace with God? Am I at peace within myself based off of me trying to keep the peace with others, but I'm not actually being who it is that I was created to be? I'm not actually doing what I know that I'm called to do, what I know I'm supposed to do, because it looks different, because people may not understand it, because people feel like, oh, there's no money in that, or I don't see how you're actually going to be able to make this happen, do this. You don't have the resources, whatever it might be, but you know you're supposed to do it. You know it is literally a part of your calling. It's a part of your purpose. It's a part of the thing that you're supposed to be doing, but you've allowed other people and their expectations of you and who they feel like you should be and what they feel like you should do. You've allowed that to make you small. You've allowed that to make you feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't, or maybe I can't. And now you're operating from this place of deficiency almost, instead of being who it is that you know you were created to be. One of the things that I shared last week in the 7 days of surrendering challenge was a lot of times when we look at the areas that we feel like we fall short in, when we look at the areas where we feel like we lack discipline, consistency, whatever it might be, sometimes you have to really take the time to look at, is it really an issue of discipline and consistency on my part? Which sometimes it is. We got to be accountable. Like, let's call a thing. But is that really the root of the issue? Or is it a matter of I'm trying to follow someone else's guidelines, someone else's rules, or whatever it might be? And as a result of that, I feel like I have a hard time following through because I'm actually doing something that I don't like or something that I don't enjoy. I've had to learn for myself that some of the areas that I've struggled with discipline, it's not necessarily coming from an inherent inability to follow through. Like that in itself is not the issue, but more so it's coming from the pressure of trying to meet external expectations. And so I'm trying to do something because this is what the Christian girlies do. Or I'm trying to do something because this is what a pastor said. This is how you need to do things. This is how you need to be. When in reality, if I don't do it that way, or if it doesn't look like how your routine looks like, that doesn't change what my relationship with God is. That doesn't change how I pursue my purpose. It doesn't change the things that I'm doing or how I go about doing them. But some of us are struggling with actually following through with things. We're struggling in the area of discipline specifically because we are listening to a whole bunch of other voices. We're listening to how a lot of people do things. And ultimately, their routine doesn't work for us. And there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like we have been trained to believe in a lot of areas that there is this one size fit all way of doing things to achieve things. You see this in diet culture. You see this, and let me rephrase that, because one could also argue, girl, there's tons of different diets. I understand. But you will also see that there are a lot of people that say, but this is the one that works. This is the best one. Or this is how I lost all this weight, and just how it worked for me, it's going to work for you. Weight Watchers worked for my sister and one of my best friends. They lost a lot of weight on it. They were successful on it. But as for me, I don't enjoy tracking my food. So it's like a lot of us, we feel like we're failing. We feel like we're not getting the result that we actually want to get, when in reality, it's not that you're failing. You're just trying to follow a formula that was not created for you. It was not a part of what your routine needs to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. But so many of us are carrying around the expectations of someone else, someone else's formula, someone else's routine. And then we wonder why we're struggling with it. We wonder why we keep coming up empty. We wonder why we're not getting the same results. Maybe it's because you need to release that. And the thing is, so many of you have found yourself stuck, trapped even in a cycle of guilt and inadequacy because you have been trying to conform to someone else's idea of who you should be, what you should look like. And when you feel like you keep missing that mark, when you feel like you keep coming up short, you are trapped in this cycle of feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you're not capable, feeling like you're too young, feeling like you don't fit the part, you don't look the part, whatever it might be. And you find yourself in this cycle that leads you to make you insecure in something that's not even for you. Do you like when we start actually thinking about this and saying these things out loud, you realize how crazy that is. Like you are insecure with something that's never been for you to carry. That was never a burden for you to carry. The pressure that you are carrying of other people's expectations of you, of trying to be like someone else, of trying to do or follow their model to a T, and feeling like you keep on coming up short. That pressure was never for you to carry. And I've had to accept that for myself because I've shared plenty of times before, there were certain expectations that I had of myself based off other people's routines and what other people said worked specifically when it comes to your relationship with God and how you grow that and what that looks like. And it took me years to realize that I don't like journaling. But I felt like that's what I'm supposed to do because that's what they post on Instagram. It took me a long time to realize that I go to work really early in the morning. And so it's not realistic for me to have my quiet time first thing in the morning. I can talk to God all throughout the day. It's like we have allowed ourselves to believe that certain things only look one way. Who had been saying that? Like, who told you that? Who told you that it only has to look a certain way? And specifically for those of you who are struggling with your relationship with God and you're struggling with comparing it to how others look, this is what we have to consider specifically with that. Our relationship with God is unique to us. And just like you have different friendships, you have different relationships with people, it's the same thing as far as us and our relationship with God. How I spend quiet time with God may look different from yours. That doesn't mean that yours is wrong. It don't mean that mine is wrong either. But we can get into this mindset that we see other people doing it a certain way and we feel like what we're doing is not good enough. We feel like we're not doing enough. And I have to ask you, in comparison to what? And have you talked to God about it? Like, have you asked God, what do you want from me? What do you need from me? I always try to think about it in the sense of like, what is God's love language? Like my relationship with him. Like, am I like showing up in my relationship with God in the way that he wants me to? Not that he wants the person next to me, not that he wants my friends, not that he wants my mom. Like, am I showing up? Is he getting from me what he needs from me based off of our level of our relationship? Because some of us, we feel like we're not doing enough and we're carrying around this weight and this pressure that God never put on us. We've put it on ourselves or other people. Their expectations have been put on us, but every relationship is different. And just like I have friendships that I have very deep, loving, close friendships, each of my friendships, there's a different level of friendship there. It doesn't mean that I like one more than the other. It's we connect on different things. We have different common interests. We have different things that we talk about. We have different things that we connect on. And there's nothing wrong with that. It wouldn't make sense for me to treat my friendships the same across the board, like this one size fits all formula. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't fit each person. I know that there are friendships that I have where we can go a month without talking, and then we talk and we can be on the phone for 2, 3 hours, and it's like we talk every day. There are friendships that I know I need to be in communication with them every day. I'm aware of that based off of the level of friendship, based off of the level of relationship. And it's the same thing with us in our relationship with God. And I'm not telling y'all to go a month without talking to God. Let me be clear on that. But it's important for us to stop looking at other people and their expectations and what they do, and then try to apply that to ourselves, when it's like that ain't even your relationship with God. Like, that's not even how y'all talk. Like, you're making it weird. It doesn't even have to be like that. Like, God really does want authenticity from us. He really does want purity from us. He wants our devotion to him, our interactions with him, our communication with him to come from a pure place. And it's not about you trying to mimic Sister Spandex over here. Like, it's not about you trying to emulate someone else, but he genuinely enjoys the authenticity of his relationship with you. And I don't want you to miss that, or to even miss the opportunity to really feel the loving Father as who he is, based off of your individual relationship with him, because you're trying to make it look like someone else, or someone has made you feel like it has to look this way. And so you feel like it's not good enough. So you keep showing up. Instead of showing up as a daughter, you're showing up as an orphan. You're showing up as someone who feels like you don't have that closeness, who feels like you don't have that connection. And we have direct access to our Father. So we don't have the reason to show up as an orphan. And I really want to encourage you in that. This is not even the route that I had intended to take with this episode. But I really want to encourage you to let go of this orphan mentality when it comes to your relationship with God, of feeling like you're not close enough, feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you're lacking, feeling like you're missing out, feeling like your relationship with God isn't as tight as other people that you look at, because it doesn't look like how theirs look. There's so many of you who are missing out on having such an authentic experience with God and having such a genuine experience with him and your relationship with him, because you feel like it's not enough. You feel like you're not enough. You feel like you're not saying the right words. You feel like you're not reading the right things. You feel like you're not enough. And God wants you to understand that he truly loves you at the level that you are. He truly, even as he wants more for you, even as he desires to stretch you, even as he desires to grow you, he genuinely loves you where you are. And he wants you to get to a place where you are able to be secure in who it is that he has created you to be, and not trying to mimic or trying to emulate what someone else is telling you that relationship is supposed to look like. Don't miss God in this season, y'all. I really had no intention of like taking this this detour for this episode, but don't miss God in this season because you're trying to look like what you think it means to have a relationship with him, and you completely miss him. Because I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody that's posting scripture, this, that, and the fourth, that they're frauds. I'm not saying that. I ain't saying everybody's a false prophet. However, anybody can post anything. Anybody can give an appearance of anything. But there's something about the purity and the intentionality of a real relationship with God. It's something about being a daughter, being a child of God, being a daughter, and having that relationship with him that is so genuine, that is so authentic, that even in your mess ups, even in the moments when you didn't get it right, even in the moments where you lost sight of things, even in the moments where you just feel like, God, I'm trying. I don't know if that's been anybody else's prayer, but I was listening to the song Yet. I think it's called, I think the group is The King Will Come. But I love that song so much because that song ministered to me in a season where I legit won't even talking to God. That song ministered to me in a season where I felt very distant and disconnected from him. And just the part of, God, don't give up on me yet. I know I'm not your best, but I'm trying. And I just feel that for someone that you're saying, God, I'm trying, but it feels like it's not enough. God, I'm trying, but I feel like I keep failing. God, I'm trying, but I feel like I keep missing you. I just want to encourage you to know that God sees that you're trying. God sees your heart. He sees the purity of your heart. And I know that you are carrying the weight, you are carrying the pressure of trying to live up to what other people have told you it looks like to follow him, what other people have told you it looks like to be holy, what other people have said it looks like to be in relationship with him. And you keep feeling like you're not doing enough. You keep feeling like because you've messed up, because you, whatever it might be. When I tell you that God truly loves a pure and sincere heart, and when we go to him, when we repent, when we ask him for forgiveness, when we go to him, his word tells us that he is faithful and just to forgive us and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And I don't want you to miss that. I don't want you to live in a cycle of condemnation. I don't want you to live in a cycle or a pattern of inadequacy because you feel like you can't get it right based off of someone else's standard. Keep your heart pure before God. I genuinely believe that God is just calling us to a place of purity. I genuinely believe that he is just calling us to a place of just real humility before him. And being humble before him is not about being humiliated. Because some people, I do feel like you have to carry that weight and that burden and that shame of all the wrong. It's not about being humiliated before him. It's simply about just humbling ourselves before him, being broken before him, and truly allowing him in. And so I'm going to end there, but I just want to encourage you in that because it was a whole lot more things I intended to talk about when it came to releasing the expectations of others. But I feel like what's been said is what needed to be said. And so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But if you need prayer, if you need advice, or just need to talk, whatever it might be, feel free to send me an email. You can email me at changeheartsquestions@gmail.com, and I will put that in the description box on YouTube and the show notes. But just know, like, y'all, to the girls who get it, I get it, okay? I cannot say that enough, but just know that I know what it feels like to feel like you're trying and to feel like it's still not good enough. But know that God sees you. He sees your efforts. He sees the purity in your heart. He sees your desire to do right. And he sees your desire and your want to be close to him and to be in relationship with him. Don't think that that goes unnoticed. And don't allow what other people say to make you feel like it goes unnoticed, because he sees you, he knows you. He so intimately knows you, even beyond ways that you could even imagine. So I hope that this was encouraging, even though it was a little detour, but I hope you all have an amazing week. Make sure that you share this with a friend. You never know who may need to hear this today. So make sure you share with a friend. And until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Have a great week. Thank you for tuning into a Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend. Also, I'd love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at @AngelSharon_ and at A Change of Heart podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Angel Sharon. Have an amazing week, and until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.